Right, so in section 10, we're solving even larger inequalities. Using the distributive property on number 1, we get 2w plus 8 is greater than or equal to 7w minus 7. Again, I'm going to take the 7w from the right side and switch it over to the left side by subtracting it from both sides. We get negative 5w plus 8 is greater than or equal to, that is a negative 7. When you subtract 8 from both sides, we get negative 5w is greater than or equal to negative 15. Here, we're dividing both sides by negative 5. So we get w is less than or equal to 3. In number 2, that is a negative 5 times k is negative 5k. That's negative 5 times a positive 4 is negative 20 is greater than or equal to 3 times k is 3k, and 3 times that's a negative 4 is negative 12. I'm going to subtract 3k from both sides. Negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8k. Minus 20 is greater than or equal to negative 12. Next, I'm going to add 20 to both sides. Leaves me with negative 8k is greater than or equal to, now, negative 12 plus 20 is 8. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 8. Reverses the inequality sign, and I get k is less than or equal to negative 1. Now, if at any time I am going too fast, remember you can always pause it on your end and use that time to do it catching up. Now let's look at number 3. We have 8c minus the quantity, c minus 5 quantity closed, is greater than c plus 17. Now here's what I see when I look at a problem like this. On the outside of the parentheses, I have a number that I need to distribute. That number is negative 1. So what I'm looking at is this. I see this negative 1 right here that I need to multiply times this c. What is that? Negative 1c. Although I don't write the c, the 1, I just write negative c minus c. Negative 1 times c, negative c. Here's what else I have here. I have a negative 1 times negative 5. What's negative 1 times negative 5? Well, that's positive 5. So when I take all of that away, when I distribute, I have negative 1 times c is negative c. Negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5. The rest of the problem I just simply bring down. So I have 8c minus c plus 5 is greater than c plus 17. Let's clean that up a little bit. Now, on the left side, I have 8c minus c. My job here is to combine like terms on the left side. So that gives me 7c plus 5 is greater than c plus 17. I now have variables on both sides. Subtract c from both sides gives me 6c plus 5 is greater than 17. After you subtract 5 from both sides, you get 6c is greater than 12. Dividing both sides by 6, c is greater than 2. In number 4, I'm going to take 3 times a. It gives me 3a. I'm going to take 3 times positive 2/3 plus 2 is greater than or equal to a minus 1. Subtract the a from both sides. Gives me 2a plus 2 is greater than or equal to negative 1. Subtracting 2 from both sides, I get 2a is greater than or equal to negative 3. Dividing both sides by 2, a is greater than or equal to negative 3/2. All right, number 5. Well, on the left side, I don't have any parentheses to clear, so I'm just going to have 6 plus 3x. Now that's going to be greater than. Now here's what I'm seeing. I see a 3 outside the parentheses times the x inside, 3x. I see 3 times positive 4 is positive 12. Again, when I'm looking at the second parentheses, though, on the outside of that parentheses, I see a negative 2. I don't see a minus 2. The minus sign makes the 2 negative, is the way I see it. It's negative 2 times what? Negative 1. What is negative 2 times 1? Excuse me, negative 2 times negative 1. That's positive 2. Then I see a negative 2 times a negative x. All I'm doing is multiplying two numbers. What two numbers do I see? I see a negative 2 outside the parentheses. Inside, I see a negative x. What's negative 2 times negative x? Positive 2x. On the left side, combine any like terms. In other words, get all your numbers together, get all the x's together. Well, I only have 6 plus 3x. But on the left side, on the right side, I have 3x plus 2x. Those are like terms. I add them together, 5x. I have 12 plus 2. That's a positive 14. And now all I have to do to solve this is subtract 5x from both sides. 3x minus 5x is negative 2x. Bring down the 6 is greater than 14. Subtract 6 from both sides. Leaves me with negative 2x is greater than 8. Dividing both sides by negative 2, I get x, remember we're reversing the inequality sign, is less than negative 4. In number 6, I see 5 times 3x is 15x. I see 5 times a negative 9. I don't read it as minus 9, not when I'm multiplying. When I'm multiplying, I'm either thinking, is it a positive number or is it a negative number? I have a positive 5 times a negative 9 is negative 45. In my next parentheses that I'm clearing, outside the parentheses, I have a negative 1. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x, although I don't write the coefficient 1. So it's minus x. I have negative 1 times 11 is negative 11. Is less than or equal to 8 times x, 8x. Now don't drop the ball here. Keep multiplying out. You're going to get plus 8. On the left side, combine like terms. 15x minus x is 14x. Now, what I see here is not a minus 45. I see a negative 45. I don't see minus 11. I see a negative 11. What's negative 45 and a negative 11? Negative 56. Is less than or equal to 8x plus 8. Bring the x's over, minus 8x, minus 8x. 6x minus 56 is less than or equal to 8. Add 56 to both sides. Get 6x is less than or equal to 64. Dividing both sides by 6, and again, you can leave this as an improper fraction. You get x is less than or equal to 32 over 3. All right, in translating the following into inequalities and solving, read the problem and make sure you have a good understanding of what it says. Twice the sum of a number and 4 is less than 12. Twice the sum of a number and 4 is less than 12. Well, the first thing you're going to do is find the inequality sign, is less than. Obviously, is less than, pointing to the left. So something is less than 12. Well, the sum of is a very special situation, as we recall. The two things that come after it, the things that we're going to be adding, go in parentheses. So a number and 4 goes in parentheses. So n plus 4 in parentheses, twice that would be 2 in front. 2 times the parentheses, n plus 4, close the parentheses, is less than 12. We'll use the distributive property to get 2n plus 8 is less than 12. Subtracting 8 from both sides, you get 2n is less than 4, n is less than 2. Number 2, 7 increased by 3 times the difference of a number and 11 is at most 8 decreased by twice the sum of the number and 4. Wow, quite a mouthful. Let's read that again. 7 increased by 3 times the difference of a number and 11 is at most 8 decreased by twice the sum of the number 4. Well, let's first of all find the inequality sign. Is at most, the most it can be. We talked about that last time. What is at most going to mean here? Less than or equal to. So now that we have the inequality sign, whatever comes before is at most will be before the inequality sign. Whatever comes after will be after the inequality sign. Well, so let's see what this says. We're going to take 7 increased by 3 times the difference of a number and 11. Now that in itself is a mouthful. Well, I'm going to go back to what my old algebra teacher taught me, and that was start at the end and work your way backwards. In that expression, 7 increased by 3 times the difference of a number and 11. What's the last thing we see? 11. So let's put an 11 down. Well, the difference of, we talked about how that is a special situation, that it takes parentheses. Whatever comes after, the two things that come after that are going to go in parentheses, and we're going to be using a minus sign. So the difference of a number and 11 would be n minus 11 in parentheses. Well, what's before the difference of a number and 11? Well, 3 times. How do we show 3 times this parentheses? Well, put a 3 in front of it. Keep working your way backwards. What does increased by mean? Well, keep working backwards and you put a plus sign. What's in front of that? The number 7. So 7 plus 3 times the parentheses n minus 11 is less than or equal to, all right, 8 decreased by twice the sum of the number and 4. Well, again, let's take that word expression, that verbal expression, and let's translate that into algebra. Again, using what my old algebra teacher, my Algebra 1 teacher, taught me several years ago. Start at the end, work backwards. What's the last thing you see? A 4, so write it down. Well, we have the sum of, there's that tricky word, that tricky phrase again, the sum of, whatever comes after that, those two things are going to go in parentheses, and this time we're going to be using a plus sign. So n plus 4 is what we have in parentheses. Well, keep working your way backwards. What's twice that? Well, it's a 2 in front of it. What's decreased by mean? Well, it's a minus sign. Keep working backwards. What's in front of that? The number 8. And here is your inequality that we need to solve. Well, on the left side, we're going to be using the distributive property. We have 7 plus 3 times n is 3n, and 3 times negative 11 is negative 33. Is less than or equal to 8. Now, that's a negative 2 times n is negative 2n. Then it's a negative 2 again times the positive 4 is negative 8. What do we have on the left side? Well, I have 3n. Write it down. I also have 7 minus 33 negative 26. Is less than or equal to? Well, we have a negative 2n. We have 8 minus 8 is 0, so we'll just write negative 2n. Well, here we have a couple of options. I can bring the 3n over to the right side, or I can bring the negative 2n over to the left side. If I were to bring the negative 2n over to the left side, that would leave me with 0 on that side. So let's go ahead and do that, because my rule has always been to cancel the one on the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and go plus 2n. Now keep in mind where the inequality sign is. 3n plus 2n is 5n. What else do you have here? Minus 26 is less than or equal to, and then we talked about this earlier, how that's equal to 0. So 5n minus 26 is less than or equal to 0. Adding 26 to both sides, I get 5n is less than or equal to 26. N is less than or equal to 26/5. So, number 3. Negative 3 times a number increased by 2 is greater than or equal to 4 times the difference of the number and 5 halves. Oh my. Negative 3 times a number increased by 2 is greater than or equal to 4 times the difference of the number and 5 halves. All right, let's find the inequality sign and start from there. Is greater than or equal to? Greater than or equal to? Negative 3 times a number increased by 2. Now, I don't see anything that shows parentheses here. We don't have the sum of, we don't have the difference of, we don't have the quantity of. So, again, I'm going to start at the end of this phrase. I'm taking this phrase right here, this verbal phrase, and I'm going to translate that into math. Again, doing what my old algebra teacher told me, start at the end. Write down the number 2. What does increased by mean? Well, it's a plus sign, so put that out in front of the 2. What is a number? Well, let's call it n. What's negative 3 times that? It'll be negative 3n. Negative 3n plus 2 is greater than or equal to. Now 4 times the difference of a number and 5 halves. All right, 5 halves is the fraction 5 over 2. The difference of means I'm going to be using a minus sign. And whatever comes after the difference of is going to go in parentheses. So a number and 5 halves, n minus 5 halves is going to go in parentheses. 4 times that would be a 4 in front. So using the distributive property on the right side, on the left side I have negative 3n plus 2, then we have is greater than or equal to 4n minus, now what's 4 times 5 halves? We'll have minus 10. Subtracting the 4n from both sides, negative 7n plus 2 is greater than or equal to negative 10. Subtracting 2 from both sides, negative 7n is greater than or equal to negative 12. Dividing both sides by negative 7, remember that reverses the inequality sign, leave it an improper fraction, less than or equal to 12/7.